Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Masterclass. I am Chloe Tetro. I am the health coach here with Ready Care on this lovely Thursday evening. So, for today's session, I will be chatting to you guys about cognitive dissonance, which is basically something that comes up a lot when people are making lifestyle and dietary changes. And it involves very put simply, when your desires and your actions don't quite run smoothly together. So the way that cognitive dissonance can be described is it was first coined in 1957 by a psychologist called Leon Festinger. And it is an uncomfortable state of mind when someone has contradictory values, attitudes, or perspectives about the same thing. So the degree of discomfort will vary with the subject matter, as well as how well the person copes with that contradiction. So whether they're going to get stressed about it, whether they're going to beat themselves up about it. To put it in very simple, practical terms, it could be the decision to have undergone a low carb diet, for example, and being really gun ho with it, really sticking to it, and then maybe totally splurging out with the likes of a chocolate cake one day, and you kind of go, why did I do that? I have no idea where that came from. So really, cognitive dissonance is a catch-all term for that type of push and pull that can be experienced when there is a dissonance. So dissonance would basically just mean when things are not in harmony with each other. So when your beliefs, when your actions, and when your goals fall a little bit out of harmony with each other. Now, brain speaking, the area implicated in cognitive dissonance would be the posterior part of the medial frontal cortex, or the PMFC for short, which would be the part of the brain involved in decision making and looking to avoid adverse outcomes. So it's really that part that's going to be scanning for what do we want, what are we going to get out of it. So with the cognitive dissonance, what can happen with it? Now, I use that particular example of the healthy way of eating and the chocolate cake, but really it can be lots of different things. It's seen a lot with people who smoke, who know that it's bad for them, who want to, but they'll get that niggling voice in their head that kind of goes, I don't actually want to. Don't tell me what to do. Or it could be somebody who has been led towards, whether it be a medical program or whether it be something like the gym or a course that they might have been signed up with work. And half of them goes, yeah, I really want to do this. And the other half just resists. And you can find yourself fighting and at odds with yourself. So what can happen with that in terms of the negative effects, first of all, is it's like there'd be a discomfort involved in it. There is a bit of confusion because you're not entirely sure why you did something or which one you particularly tend to believe. There's conflict. There's conflict over a particular subject matter, and I'll cling on to the likes of the dietary changes, because you might go, I'm not really sure if I want to or don't, because I keep telling myself I do, but yet I keep repeating specific patterns, and I'm getting a little bit confused as to how it is that I actually feel about this. Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? There is the external pressure. So especially if it's something that co-workers, family or friends notice, there is the external pressure of, words like hypocrisy coming in, or, people making throwaway comments of, oh, sure, you'll be back at it now in a week, or those kind of things, which can be incredibly damaging to a person's self-esteem. The stories that we tell ourselves and our emotional experience of going into a particular change. And really, when we're not feeling so good about ourselves and when we feel we're not really getting the support due to this kind of push and pull of behavior, it can really lead us into peaking the threat response, which would be a big rise in your stress levels. It would be a big rise in negative self-talk. So it's really something that for particular things can send a person down quite a heavy path and can kind of not be particularly helpful when you are looking to set yourself up as much as possible. So when you are looking to avoid dealing with mental discomfort, if the issue isn't resolved on its own, and it generally isn't, because it runs what I call, I've dubbed subscript with things like that. It means it's running in the background. It's largely part of your subconscious. It can lead to those types of problems down the road where really you're not exactly sure. You're not exactly sure where you stand with something, and it can be quite confusing for a person. So with that, on the flip side of it, the opportunity for positive effects. So this is me being a big optimist. In a lot of the same reasons why something can be negative, something very positive can spring from it. So if you are aware of a push-pull relationship, there's a huge opportunity in that, because oftentimes when we have conflicting ideas, thoughts, and beliefs, there is most often the implication of what's called an inherited belief. And an inherited belief is just like that. It's like inheriting blonde hair. It's like inheriting, I would say, purple hands in the winter. Thank you, Dad, on my side. But really, it's something that has been instilled in us, a thought process and a behavior that's been instilled with us through our family or through the people that are around us that may not particularly be our own. So sometimes it is a huge opportunity to start to take out, both sides, really look at them in the harsh light of day, and to be able to make a very informed and aware, conscious decision based on the knowledge that there is a conflict there. So when there is awareness, there is choice. And when there's choice, you can absolutely do something about it. So there is a quick old quote now by psychiatrist Grant Brenner here. He's the co-founder of Neighborhood Psychiatry and of cognitive distortions. He says, developing a sense of inner conflict is a good thing to notice because it can lead to rigid beliefs and sudden changes in beliefs and behavior. If competing values, beliefs, attitudes are not resolved or integrated, it can greatly inhibit the ability to have constructive dialogue, making it difficult, if not impossible, to arrive at a satisfactory compromise. So the way that I would look at this is very, very akin to if any of you have kids and have two kids, or have family members that bicker. There is, it can get very noisy, it can get very confusing, and one wants to be heard above the other. But really, a good way is to actually sit each belief down, realize, is it your own or is it something you've assimilated? The example I will give here is one that I go back to because, lads, you'll notice this is a time that I talk about the gym a lot because 8 o'clock is my time where I've decided I should be going to the gym. So it's an example that is on my mind a lot around this time of day. So if you think that I go back to this example a lot, that's what's happening below the surface. So if the conflict there is, I should be going to the gym 5 days a week, and you have a day where you're absolutely not feeling it, and you almost have a mini rebellion with yourself where you go, do you know what? No, I'm going to stay in and do X, Y, and Z. And you can end up having that kind of some of the negative attributes that we spoke about with that push and pull, where you end up feeling shame, guilt, you end up feeling not good enough, you end up getting stressed, and that can impact your view of the entire experience. It can peak that threat response that I talk about a lot, which is that part of your brain that is looking for you to actively go away from things that it deems painful, upsetting, anything like that. So in that cognitive dissonance, in that I have to go to the gym 5 days a week, and no, I don't want to. Already within that push pull, it's dampened the idea of the behavioral change, and it's stimulated the threat response of the brain. So a good way to unpack that, let's say, is to take both beliefs, right? Get them out in the open, get them into full awareness, and go, okay, why the gym? Why have I decided 5 days a week? Why have I decided that is the best form of exercise for me? Why have I decided that I'm going to be very rigid about it? You see, there's lots of things to unpick with that. Is it something that came into my head because I heard an expert talk about it and I said, yeah, do you know what? I'll do that. Is it because I have a trainer who's decided those are the days that we do the exercise routine? Is it really something that is in alignment with what I want, what I need? So the flip side of that is hearing out, where does the rebellion come from? Is the rebellion based in I'm tired? Is it based in I don't want to do that? And those are big ones to come up, because really your system is communicating to you all the time. So if it's springing itself up in I'm tired, for example, are there other ways that you can appease that during your day and your evening? Does your evening routine need to be looked at? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you resting enough during your week? Are you scheduling enough you time during the week? The other part of it is, what did I say? I'm tired and it's gone now. It's gone now, I'll tell you. um, but really, there are specific ways, that there are specific things that your system tells you that really, when you put the two of them together, you can start to see, okay, so I may want to exercise. I know that that's a good thing for me. I want to be healthy. That's my primary goal. I want to be healthy. But the belief systems that I hold around what is it that healthy means? What is it that an exercise routine means? What is it that going to the gym means? All of that can be unpicked to make more space for, okay, I know that I need more rest in my week. I know that I want to look after myself. I want to look after my energy levels and have a bit more me time. Is there a way that we can tie both of those together? So a lot of conflict resolution and mediation comes in with those, where you have both beliefs, the conflicting beliefs out, and they basically get to say their piece, for want of a better word. You really give yourself the chance to look at them fully and see what they're trying to communicate here. So having both of those on the table, if I were speaking to a client, for example, and they said, I want to get healthy and exercise, but I find myself very tired and I don't particularly want to do that, I'll say, right, okay, so let's have a look at what exercise means for you, what being healthy means for you. Are there other ways that you can bring that in that are more in alignment with what you actually want? Because at the end of the day, if you feel pressured into anything, and that includes the pressure we place on ourselves because we have inherited a specific belief, or we think that this is the way it should be because it works for other people. If we push that on ourselves, most of the time we don't like to be told what to do, especially if it's something that fundamentally we don't want to do. So are there ways that we can make both sides, the part that needs more self-care, more rest, and the part that needs to feel like they are moving their body, they're being healthy? This is usually the point where, if I were speaking to a client, we could have a look at, are there other ways that would bring you joy? Are there other ways that you like to move? Be it something more gentle, be it yoga. How do you feel that day? Are you rested enough that day? Instead of forcing yourself to do something like running, which you absolutely hate, could you take 20 minutes and do soft body motions? Things like that, that bring you way more in alignment with what is important to you. Because in this example, getting the exercise is important to that person. It's just the conflict comes most of the time from the beliefs based around a way that we feel we should or ought to be doing something. So there is loads of information and opportunity in looking at those. Like, that's one example, but really, if you have a quick scan through your own life, a lot of these come up quite often. And it's retying, especially with the part that you go, geez, I don't know why I did that. And actually give yourself the self-confidence to think, maybe I didn't just pluck that out of thin air. And if part of me goes, I don't want to do this, give that give that part its chance to speak. For those of you that journal, it's a really good exercise. Just time 5 minutes, time 10 minutes, and really put all of that down onto paper. Sometimes we avoid things that we have an association with the threat response, as I'd mentioned before. And that can come from maybe, what's that called? Cause and effect. This action causes me to feel not good enough, or it causes me to feel like a failure, or it causes me shame, or I don't know enough about this topic, so it makes me feel, a little bit askew with things. Is there something there in that jotting down and the journaling that you can really pick out and go, okay, now I have a way in. I understand where that rebellion is coming from. I understand what part of me is saying, whoa, listen, we don't like this. And really, it's looking at a way to mediate how to balance both sides, the thing that you truly want, the thing that aligns with your values, the things that aligns with your greater goals, and to work with yourself, not against yourself. And when you have those push and pulls come up, I like, as I said, the example of children is usually a good one, where both of them might have a point, you know, who did start it? why why is one in conflict with the other? But really, it's hearing both sides out and hearing the message underneath. Because oftentimes with the belief system, especially, we ascribe beliefs based on the meaning making that we put behind it. So if you have two conflicting beliefs, really asking yourself what's underneath that. you know for example, with the exercise scenario, the exercise is the outward manifestation of the person's desire to want to get healthy, fitter, happier. Um, and that's an avenue towards it. So exercise is not the end goal. The underneath part, what's really important, are the more personal reasons, the motivations and the drives. So if you can find a way to listen to both sides of a conflict and really give both sides its voice, it's a lot easier to come up with alternative ways, examples, scenarios, excuse me, and to be curious and receptive to your own sense of being. It's very seldom that we dig our heels in for absolutely no reason. So it's a good way to really take a look at that. And sometimes we might have specific beliefs that we have. Again, I'll go back to the gym example. The gym example might be, oh, I'm trying to avoid feeling uncomfortable, or I'm trying to avoid feeling bad at something. I wasn't very good at that the last time, and I got very self-conscious because lots of people were looking at me. So if that's running below script, it's going to control your behaviors, because it's going to push all the threat response buttons where you're going to want to avoid the trigger, which is the gym, because your brain is trying to protect you from feeling all of those negative emotional associations that I've mentioned. Whereas if you put it in awareness outside, really take it up from the subconscious and let it have its peace, let it have its time, you're going to start to be able to put your adult hat on, because a lot of those things are formed in our earlier years. You're going to be able to look at that with your adult hat on and go, okay, let's put this thought on trial. Okay, I'm a beginner. Am I expected to know everything at the start? No. Would I expect somebody else to know everything at the start? Probably not. Is it fair that I expect myself to be very, very good at something from the beginning stages? Could it be that other people in the gym are definitely focused on themselves, and maybe I was projecting a little bit where all eyes on me were concerned? So be curious. And it can help you to really understand your own values and what it is that you stand for. Because, as I said, underneath those conflicts are what's really driving you. It's recognizing that an inner conflict can help you to understand yourself better. And that's really at the crux of this. This is where the opportunity piece comes in. Cognitive dissonance is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a protective mechanism when we have already made a choice that may be against our belief systems, and retrospectively we can't quite change it. So sometimes it does creep up for those reasons, but overall it's a very, very positive way to be able to scan your own behavior, scan your own internal system, and give yourself the best chance to utilize your brain's little what would you call them? It's little quirks. It's little quirks, and instead of fighting against them, to go, yeah, okay, I can see what's happening here. And once it's in awareness, you can really, really give yourself the best fighting chance. So cognitive dissonances would be that push-pull, specific belief, specific behavior, something I want is not quite in alignment with how I am acting. And it's important here that you really notice that I do want it. I do want it, but there's little things along the way that are pushing me back into old habits. And as we'd have chatted before, habits are hard to break. Habits are very difficult to break, but to be aware of when cognitive dissonance is coming into it. The cognitive dissonance negative effects can be things like anxiety, stress, negative self-talk, having that degree of external negative talk, which is absolutely unhelpful to making any changes. So really, to harness the power of the cognitive dissonance, realize that there are two forces inside you that, once given the opportunity to get to speak their piece, again, be it through journaling or just giving yourself a moment to reflect from a really curious space, what they both have to say. And if you can find the middle ground with both of those, that helps you to connect to your values and what's intrinsically important to you to help you on your goal forward. Right, that's my my little bus stop tour. No, quick stop tour. Something tour of cognitive dissonances. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comment section. I'll give the usual minute for that at the end. Otherwise, you can reach out to any member of the team, and we can have a chat more on that. I'll give it another quick few seconds. No, don't think there is any here. Perfecto. So lads, have a lovely evening. And for those of you that are near, no hassle, Heather, thank you for listening. For those of you near the Jazz Festival, have a lovely one, and we'll be chatting to you next week. Bye. Mind yourselves.